Shit, you made me jump.
That can be pretty intimidating, huh?
Today on review we are looking at Blades of Time for the Xbox 360, also available on the PlayStation 3. The story of Blades of Time takes place as you play as the character Zumi and her sidekick Zero, who are called treasure hunters and have traveled to another dimension called Dragonland, hunting for great treasure and all-around adventure. But once they get there, they realize not exactly as they were wishing it would be, and be thrown into pretty much in the middle of a civil war that is happening between the Chaos and the Sky Guards over the land. And outside of the Civil War happening, other civilians might it be who came there for religious belief or came there also looking for treasure, also pretty much sort of in the middle. And the one thing that made Blades of Time very unique outside of any other action-adventure platformer style game, the core ability to control time. This will play into a lot of things within the game. Might it be using time manipulation to solve a puzzle, or actually using it in combat. The combat itself is extremely deep and really challenging in most places. This is a game where you will gather a lot of combos, and to make it true to the game you will have to learn the combo, and in many cases will like, depending on what enemy you're going against, or what combo to use against the enemy. And the leveling system in this is not really much of a leveling system, and more every now and again you will stumble across a statue that will grant you 2 ability from a list of 40 or more. And you cannot learn every ability in the game, at least in one playthrough anyway, so it actually comes fully down to how do you want to develop your character and what type of fighting style match you best. With the fighting, it mainly just made up of the normal weapon, might it be guns and swords, and later on rocket launcher and freeze wave, but you will find other treasure and items gathered in the universe that will give you buffs, like necklaces and random enchantments that you can add to yourself, which you can find by, of course, finding treasure. You are a treasure hunter after all. And with it you have a compass, which can show you the way you actually gotta go for the real story, and well, in theory, well, a treasure chest will actually be hidden. But in many cases, the treasure chest is hidden and actually come down to a little bit of problem solving, trying to figure out how to get to them. And some of them is just invisible, just straight out. And this is where we come down to manipulating like dimension and time around you. You will gain an ability to make a little bubble around yourself, which will show item which is lost in time or other dimension, depending on how you want to look at this. And you have to be in that bubble to get it. And also to play into some of the combat scenario. With some of the combat, you will end up fighting enemies that will slow down time around you, and the only way you can actually fight in normal speed would be using this ability, and staying within the bubble equates. But this ability is also used for puzzle solving. In many cases, you will find a couple puzzles where you will have to bend time around you to actually solve the puzzles. And when it comes to the combat side of using time control, you have the ability to rewind time and in return make a doppelganger who will fight right beside you the whole time, or late for a certain amount of time depending on how far time you roll back. And this is where some of the extra strategy come from. And some enemy you will fight that will have shields and other magical abilities on them that you can't exactly take out alone. So it comes down to running up, doing a couple combo, rewinding time, doing some more combo, and make multiple duplications of yourself to help you fight these enemies. And in some cases it can make the game extremely chaotic, but at the same time you do not lose track of what's happening around you. This is a fantastic game when it comes to the combat itself, with only one downside, which would be the actual guns. The guns are extremely really unresponsive, and in many cases really a little chaotic to use and just doesn't feel like quite the board. You can move while shooting of course, but in many cases your guns seem either too loose or too tight in many ways. So it mainly comes down to pointing your gun in a position and then just moving left and right and shooting instead of actual aiming, which is kind of a downside. But the gun is not exactly a must-need item except in a few scenarios, mainly when you start fighting other humans, with they will have guns, and I can say this is the most irritating part of the game when you are actually fighting humans. As long as you're not fighting humans, the combat is fantastic, deep, rewarding, and all around just fun throughout. And then outside of the actual single player, we actually have a fairly in-depth multiplayer system here. Sadly, not very many people are playing this, but if you can find a couple people, or you can play this also solo if you so desire. And how it works is set up pretty much like Dynasty Warrior with tower defense. You have towers scattered across the landscape, and then your army versus a NPC army or another character army, which if you play against the other person, they can play 3 random character. You will find within the single player game can also be playable character in multiplayer. And how that work is you're gonna go across the map destroying tower to try to get to the enemy base to destroy it. And in between then you will also have random bosses that will spawn farther and farther into the enemy territory you get to actually keep the challenge up. And then you have PvP, which works pretty much the same way. Instead of actually doing a co-op tower defense game with a friend, you will do PvP where each of you will have your own territory and you fight to destroy each other's base and forts. And then on top of it, you will get wounds and metal that actually add something to the game. You have multiple metals you can get for doing many random things. And then in return, if you collect enough of these, you can actually use them to make new weapons and items to use for your character and give you more buff within the multiplayer game. So the multiplayer can get extremely deep. It's just sadly not really anyone is playing it, which is kind of a downside aside for a multiplayer game that is unique and actually fun. So overall, I have to give Blades of Time a 4 out of 5.